Hello everybody, welcome back. Ranger Greg here. More than ever does it appear important to start growing our own food because challenges arise. That's how life goes. And if something happens and we won't be able to rely on external sources like grocery markets that we sometimes take for granted to provide us the food, well, guess what? We won't eat. No garden, no food. You go hungry. So, what can you do to avoid precarious situation? So first of all, make sure that you have a space in your yard, on your balcony or windowsill to be able to create planters or pots. Make sure you have access to dirt and make sure that you can have space to grow stuff. You shall remember that you were born barefoot and on a living planet. Make sure you keep the seeds in your food. Peppers are great. As you can see, it's full with seeds, which you can plant because it contains all the information needed for a plant to grow prosperously. Citrus fruit, berries, even stuff without seeds. You can keep the ends and replant them. I'll be posting a link to a really great website that lists 25 foods that you can regrow from kitchen scraps. Other than that, make sure to separate organic material from non-organic material called trash. Creating a compost can be pretty tricky, so I recommend you look up a tutorial or rent out a book or even buy a book that gives you the necessary steps to create an efficient system. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, but don't be scared. If you don't try, how do you want to succeed? Cultivating plants is one thing, but cultivating community appears to be as important. Especially in times of needs, people tend to get together. So why wait for a challenge to start to get to know your neighbors? So why don't you create a community initiative? You can transform an unused space into a garden area, either a boardwalk or maybe a space in your gated community. Now I need to stop because you need to know that everybody's consent is needed for any initiative. Another initiative is creating a crop swap. So crop swap is basically swapping your crops. If you have an apple, toss it to your neighbor, you get a banana back. If you have a lemon, you get a tangerine from another neighbor. Isn't that amazing? That's how you ensure diversity and prosperity inside of your community. We had friends in the middle of LA, living next to a highway, that created a sanctuary with prosperous trees and magical herbs. So if them, among the concrete jungle, succeeded with their project, I think everybody can give it a shot. Now that I reminded you that we are living beings living on a living planet and that we need life to survive, I can go ahead and focus on the subject of this lesson. So this lesson relates to the survival of plants and how they manage to move their fluids inside of their bodies. So I know when you start thinking about plants, you start thinking about green, all the same, slow, boring, bananas, apricots, apples, burritos, cheeseburgers. Well, I got carried away, sorry about that. Believe it or not, the world of plants is quite diverse and mysterious. The basic idea about how plants move their water throughout their bodies is actually through pressure, which comes from the root. And this is called root pressure. I know, smart cookies out there. It all starts in the root system of plants. So, just like here, in a designated volunteer, a young mustard, you can see a main taproot and then kind of like hair-like structures around it, called root hair. So these root hair increase dramatically the surface of capture for the plant, which also need food. And food for plants are minerals coming from the soil. These minerals are also called ions. And ions, believe it or not, have the capacity to attract water. Let's talk about the flow of water. These two cups represent two different environments. So the sand representing the ions in each cup are roughly the same. What differs is the quantity of water in each cup, which makes this cup more concentrated. We look at the percentage of water compared to the percentage of ions. So now, if we go from the idea that nature always tends to balance, nature is going to have to find a way to equalize the concentrations by adding more water to this cup and removing water from this cup. Bits by bits, the concentration of this cup decreases until we reach the point of balance with equal concentrations. What we are talking about is basically osmosis, which describes the movement of solvents according to the concentrations of ions. And as a rule of thumb, it always moves from low concentrations to high concentrations, just like a cup. How does this allow water to ascend in plants? Well, have you ever heard about the path of least resistance? Always finding the easiest solution. Imagine yourself being in a root, just like this one. And in plants, we have specialized channels, some moving water upwards. This channel is represented by this bottle. So when we add water to this channel, through osmosis, captured by the roots, we see the water rise because the walls of the bottle cannot stretch out. So you might not see it, but this is basically the result of an outside pressure that is way higher than the pressure in the bottle. And being a root in the ground, you can only imagine how much pressure the ground exercises on the root, which basically squeezes everything upwards. The concentration of ions and the water flow that follows creates pressure in the root system, which directs the flow upwards. So now, root pressure stops being effective at around 2 feet. After that, a second force comes in. And this force is called transpiration. So it all starts from the collaboration between the sun and a specialized cell called stomata. And stomatas are located at the bottom of the leaf surface. And they act kind of like controlling portals, controlling how much water is escaping from the leaf. The sun provides the plant enough energy for the water to evaporate. So the water particles get pulled up from the top of the plant and drags the whole water column upwards, and kind of works like a solar-powered vacuum if you think about it. Very nice! So this process being powered by the sun, this means that this process slows down during the night. This also means that the more evaporation occurs, the more humidity we're going to have in the atmosphere. So in a sense, plants are able to create their own microclimate. How cool is that? Plants have different channels transporting different things. Now, if you want to study a little further about it, I'll be posting some really cool videos done by other YouTubers to give you more details about it. How can we demonstrate how plants transport their water and nutrients throughout their bodies? Well, there's a very simple experiment that we can do together. So, I invite you to get 3 cups and fill them up to 1/3 of clear water. Now find smaller cups and fill them up with food dye. Hopefully natural, okay? But as an alternative, you can use the juices of beets or carrots that carry a lot of pigments. That should work too. So I invite you to put the food coloring in your water, just like this. And now we're going to place 3 different plants in it. So I have 2 varieties of flowers, one completely white that I'm going to put in there. One nicely shaped with a little pink frame, and a chive. Okay, so you want to make sure that you remove the part with the roots, okay? So you have kind of like a bare end. So then of course, the clippings of flowers have fresh ends also. So make sure you have that. And I'm just gonna stick it in there. And now you wait for 24 hours. So you can also do it with celery. Celery sticks work great. Again, like the chive, just trim off the really bottom and wait for 24 hours. Take a picture right when you put them in and a picture after 24 hours. And let's talk about it. Good luck. And by the way, how are your plants doing that you planted last week? Remember, you have to keep track of their evolution every day. I invite you to look at the description of this video to see the resources that I shared. You'll see different links to different web pages or different videos. and leave a comment. Give me feedback and eventually share an idea for me to cover a subject that you would like to see in this series. Ranger Greg is off duty. See you all. Till next time.